I was stood in a queue waiting, like I did every day, for years, waiting to collect my free school meal token so I could have lunch like everybody else. That was the first time that I was really made to feel different. I was on university campus when somebody told me, "You don't look like a physicist." That was the first time somebody told me I looked different. Wrong, and it wasn't the last. I was in my office at work, listening to other people talk about their schools and education, and that was the first time that I was the odd one out because I went to a comp. I've never had a manager who was a woman, and I've never had a job where I didn't find myself as the only woman in the room. From way back when I was doing my power poses as a child, right up until today, being different and feeling different has been the universal constant of my academic and professional experience. And I wrote this talk today for anybody that has ever felt like me. What if I could tell you your degree would open doors to your career possibilities, but harnessing your differences will be what accelerates your career success? Here's my idea worth sharing, and this is the tech test. Who you are matters at work, not just what you know. I graduated with a first-class degree in physics, and quite honestly, I had no idea what I was supposed to do after that. I've spent the last 15 years trying to figure it out and making a habit of showing up in places and spaces where I don't really fit the mold. From being a nuclear effects physicist, to a board advisor, to an entrepreneur. I want to share with you today what I wish I would have known about being different, in the hopes that it will help graduates here today. Flash forward to today, even my career is a little bit different. I spend half my time in a more traditional role as a defense consultant, and half my time pursuing my entrepreneurial interests as the Chief Technology Officer for a nonprofit tech for good organization. So when I think about being different and why we need to care about our differences at work, I think, to what end? Why? What is the burning imperative? Why should we care? Workplaces today are full of complex decisions, and my day job in defense is no different. My entire career in defense has been in support of CASD. And with a show of hands, if I can see, who is familiar with CASD? Excellent. I'm not the only person in the room. For everyone else, CASD is the UK's continuous at-sea deterrent, considered the UK's highest defense priority and nuclear deterrent capability. To maintain CASD, the UK commits to one nuclear-armed submarine continuously on patrol, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's the ultimate guarantee of our national security. Now, to maintain CASD, we kind of need two things. One is submarines, and two is nuclear weapons. We're at a really unique point in history where we're not just replacing the submarine fleet with the next generation Dreadnought class, considered the most advanced ballistic submarine platforms ever constructed. That wasn't hard enough. We're also replacing our warheads, which hasn't been done in over half a century, meaning our infrastructure's aged, regulations are tighter than they've ever been. I think we'll all agree testing nuclear weapons is not a good thing. And as my old colleagues would tell you, everyone who has ever done this before is either retired or dead. In my line of work, this is the definition of a complex challenge, and it is why it is so exciting to be working in defense as a scientist. Maintaining CASD and the critical decision-making and challenges ahead for defense is complex. And it's for that reason that we need to care about our differences. The thing about complex challenges is we need diverse teams of people if we want to solve those challenges innovatively. Research by Matthew Syed, and I lean heavily on his work from Rebel Ideas and the Power of Diverse Thinking, shows that diverse teams systematically come up with superior judgments, better predictions, and wiser strategies. And I want to share with you today the best explanation from his work that I've ever seen on this. So I want you to consider this white rectangle. This represents the solution space for any given complex problem. It represents the skills, experience, background, and perspectives of individuals that are required to innovatively solve that challenge. And I'd like you to join me in a thought experiment. I want you to imagine the most intelligent person you know. Picture them in your head. Do you have them? One highly intelligent person can only offer us a subset of the solution space. They are constrained by their unique skills, experience, background, and perspectives. If we want to solve challenges, complex challenges, innovatively, we need to pull in people to this team that have differing technical and practical skills, differing work and life experiences, differing cultural, educational, and professional backgrounds and perspectives. As we create teams where we bring people together with differences, we access more of the solution space to effectively and innovatively solve our complex challenges. What I've described is cognitively diverse teams, and research by Matthew Syed shows that cognitively diverse teams perform better. So why am I telling you this? My experience in seeking out new opportunities, new roles, I consistently hear the message from organizations that we hire on merit. They're the 4 words that haunt me the most when it comes to looking for new jobs. Because what it really boils down to when you get into conversation with companies is what they really care about is your professional skills and your professional experience. That's your qualifications, projects and programs that you've supported, specifically tying to the role, team, or sector that you're applying for. I want to disrupt this. If we want to solve complex challenges innovatively in our workplaces, we need to think about not only the professional skills and experiences of people, but their backgrounds and perspectives also. So I want to share with you, the graduates in the room today, my differences, how I think my differences have created value in my work and my career opportunities. And I'll start with the biggest one. I'm ADHD, I'm neurodiverse, and I'm not alone. Forbes highlights 15 to 20% of the population are neurodiverse, which simply means a difference in how we process information, a difference in cognition, built-in cognitive diversity. ADHDers like me have qualities and traits associated with successful entrepreneurs: risk-taking, impulsivity, creativity, hyperfocus, curiosity. Organizations are beginning to recognize the value of diverse talent. And rightly so. Harvard Business Review shows that neurodivergent teams are 30% more productive than neurotypical ones. For the neurodivergent people in the audience, we are valuable because we think differently. So I want to share a learning for people from my experience, or what I would have really enforced to myself as a young graduate. One of the traits that has really served me in my career is excessive curiosity. I would say get curious because you never know where a conversation would lead. And I want to bring this to life in a super short story. The first job that I ever applied for out of university, I didn't get it. I was devastated. I remember holding the letter and feeling sick and thinking, I can't do it, this job business, I'm done, I tried. Right at the end of the letter, there was a throwaway comment that said, if you'd like feedback, phone this number. And I couldn't get it out of my head. And it took me days and days and days of going round in my head. What was it? What was the reason? I need to know. Eventually phoned. I found out, or followed up, I found out I was the reserve candidate. And actually, in the conversation, the person asked, do you want to go on a shortlist? And if a role comes up that suits you in future, we'll give you a call. I said yes, thinking nothing more of it. And a few weeks later, I was called back for interview. And I got the job, and I very happily worked there in a few roles for 5 years. So a big piece of advice I would give to my younger self and to people in this audience is get curious, because you never know where a conversation will lead. My second big difference, as a woman in STEM, focused in engineering and technology, I am often the only woman in the room. And it's completely unsurprising. Engineering UK show that 15.7% of the engineering workforce are women. Now, the first time you show up in a room and you're the only, something feels a little bit off, but you're not quite sure what it is. The 10th time, you're like, what is going off? The 100th time, you're like, where are all the people like me? Now, it was me trying to answer this question and create more opportunities for women in my profession that directly led to my first board role with the Women's Infrastructure Network. And it was work with the Women's Infrastructure Network that sparked the idea for Speak Out Revolution. 5 years after its inception, Speak Out Revolution is now a multi-award-winning nonprofit on a mission to cultivate truly inclusive workplaces for all. Our data has been quoted in UK Parliament and is positively changing legislation. And I'm pleased to say even the Higher Education Act. So the government recently recommitted to a complete ban on the use of non-disclosure agreements in cases of bullying, harassment, and sexual misconduct on university campus, which is great. One of the pieces of wisdom that I would share with others from this experience is that we can't achieve anything alone. And actually, I think a massive benefit is for people to grow their networks and not be afraid to ask for help. And I want to bring this to life through a short story, a fun story for me. The job that I have now, the day job that I have now, was from sending someone a message and asking for their help. Around 3 years ago, I was writing an article for Assets magazine because I'm really cool. And as part of that process, I reached out to a thought leader in the field and said, I have this concept. Do you want to co-write this article with me? They agreed. And through that collaboration, I just so happened to mention I was looking for a new role. They encouraged me to speak to their organization, and I'm pleased to say I've been happily working there ever since. Grow your network and don't be afraid to ask for help. And that means take out your phones today, download LinkedIn if you don't have it, create a profile, connect with the person that's sat next to you, connect with everyone you speak to today. Send them a message if you think they can help you. Connect with me and send me a message, and I will be happy to help if I can. So I want to come full circle on this talk and bring you back to when I was stood in that queue waiting for my free school meal token. I come from what many would describe as an underprivileged background. A big chunk of my life, my mum was a single parent. I lived on an ex-council estate. I had free school meals. I went to a comp. I had all the loans at university, so I can empathize. And I wanted to finish this talk by telling you what it is that I do today. I've told you I support CASD, but I haven't told you what my job is. So I work with organizations across defense, helping them to improve their approaches to strategic investment decision-making. Very, very fancy language, but what it actually means is I help defense maximize the value of every taxpayer pound spent. And I want to reiterate to everyone, where you start is often outside of your control, but where you finish is up to you. University definitely gave me some of the skills and experience, but living a life financially constrained gave me the real education to thrive in my role today. What piece of wisdom would I leave for people based on that experience? Grasp opportunity with both hands, especially in your early career. My motto has become, say yes and figure out the details later. And I will use this talk today as the example. When I was given the invite to come speak, I just returned to my day job from parental leave. We're ramping up tech development at Speak Out Revolution on 2 different products. I have a baby that hasn't slept in about a month. And there would be so many reasons that I could have justified no, I can't quite do it now. I didn't even give myself the chance because I said yes, the details can always be figured out later. I want to encourage you to say yes and figure out the details later, because you never know, my next employer or investor might be sat in this very audience, and it might just be you. Say yes, figure out the details later. So I have told you way too much about me, but I want to talk about you. As you contemplate what's next and the big complex challenge that you want to help solve, I want you to remember cognitively diverse teams perform better and provide more innovative solutions. If we want to create value, I encourage you, think about the moments when you've been made to feel different. They're your defining moments. Seek out opportunities that recognize and harness your differences. Because if we want to create value for the teams and organizations we support, we need to bring people together with difference. That is how we'll drive innovation. And I'll leave you with this. This is my son. What you might not be able to see is he's holding a submarine. This is his Army submarine, which, if you know anything about defense, is a highly disruptive and innovative idea. This is the type of thinking that we need to be harnessing in our organizations. 15 years, let me tell you, is going to go like that. I've been practicing that click, so pleased it worked. You will be the hiring managers, leaders, and decision makers of tomorrow. If you find yourself sat across from the interview table from my son, I would like you to ask him who he is. Because who we matter, who we are at work, matters, not just what we know. Thank you.